Hello, everyone. This is Grace Han here with Asian Movie Pulse video interviews. This marks the fifth roundtable that we've had with the Singaporean student animators for the last few years. And this is a tradition that we at Asian Movie Pulse have kept up over the last 5 years with Cartoons Underground. And so today I have the immense pleasure to speak with Singapore's finest and brightest, representing four student films selected for this year's festival. Well, we have three since the director of Sync could not arrive, but we have the films for See You Later, My Popo's Favorite Color is Yellow, and Mountain and Mountain. So I want to invite all of our animators to go around and just introduce themselves. When you introduce yourself, can you please say your name and the film title and what university you were affiliated with?
Hi, I'm Yuon, and I am the director for See You Later. And this film was part of my thesis film for from graduating from NTU ADM.
And then Winnie, if you, yeah.
Oh, hi, I'm Winnie. My film is My Popo's Favorite Color is Yellow. And this is also my graduate film, done in Yale NUS College.
Yo, I'm Ben, co-director of Mountain Mountain. Also, my thesis film, FYP film, from NTU ADM, Nanyang Technological University, School of Art, Design and Media. Very long.
Hi, my name is Grace, and I worked on Mountain Mountain with Ben, and I'm also from NTU.
Great. Okay, so I understand we were talking about this a little before the call started, but you guys are all graduated, right? Oh, are you guys still working animation now?
Sorry, can you
Currently
repeat that question?
Oh, are you guys still working in animation right now?
Oh, like the film or?
No, no, like, are you still animating things right now?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone else nods.
Yeah, kind of doing my own independent stuff right now and freelancing.
It's amazing.
I just finished a contract working with Gerald. so so now I'm just chilling and doing stuff, drawing, sketching,
Yeah.
whatever.
Was this for Cartoons Underground or Finding Pictures or?
So it was for finding pictures, yeah,
Wow,
some
amazing.
government stuff. Very quite fun. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah. And Grace, are you?
I'm kind of doing multiple things. So yeah, at this current point, no, I'm not doing animation.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting, right? Because now we can all get a feel for where we are. But I guess my first question to all of you well, how did you guys all get into animation to begin with? What drew you to the medium? It's such a labor-intensive thing, right?
I forgot what answer I gave the last time we
Oh,
had
yeah.
this call, but probably just growing up watching anime and stuff,
Uh,
and just seeing how much story can be told through the art itself, and just being so in love with it, I guess.
mm,
Yeah.
I guess for me, I was more into illustration, but then I started to draw comics, and then I started to imagine how these images would kind of work in a sequence and translate into movement. And I started thinking about like camera angles and stuff to make things interesting. And then so I realized I think I was more invested in kind of conveying sensations and movement. And so I was like, okay, animation. Yeah.
oh,
Ooh, I'm not sure. I just I went into my school and then I had to specialize into like a course.
oh.
Like and then animation was the one with the most drawing. So I just went with animation. And I think also I interned at like Finding Pictures, which is like Gerald's animation company. I think that was kind of formative also. And watching a lot of Studio Ghibli and Pixar films when I was
Mm,
growing up. Yeah.
I think for me, it's probably because I feel like I always have a lot of stories that I'm thinking of in my head. And I think I just like telling stories, but I don't think that animation is the only way to tell a story. Although for me, when I chose it back then, it was probably the best way for me to learn how to tell a story with like through multiple mediums, which is why I chose it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that Grace mentioned and also Ben too, is that the multiple medium thing and also this idea of like liking to draw. And it seems like this year all of our entries are hand drawn, which is really interesting to me anyway. So I guess I just want you guys, I just want to know like why? Why did you draw everything? It's so hard. And I feels like nowadays, especially with stuff like AI, it feels increasingly what's it say? How to say it? Like it feels increasingly um like more difficult to justify drawing so much for something like animation, right? Especially by hand.
I think it's like I can't really say for other people, but for me, like specifically, um, like I know that like hand drawing all this animation is most definitely a privilege of sorts. Like it's something that uh it's not everyone can afford to like fund or like I mean aside from you doing it as a hobby, but um so to me it was more like if it was any time for me to take advantage of the fact that I was still studying and to do it, it would be to like give it a shot, you know, instead of doing things the most efficient and cost effective for the sake of it.
Mm. Yeah.
For me, I think it was because I was quite influenced by the classes I was taking in school at that point of time, where we were kind of thinking about materiality and process of making. And so then I was thinking about drawing and wanting to do something hand-drawn because I guess I wanted to feel closer to the medium and the work that I was doing, especially since it was kind of on a personal topic also. So like yeah, just having the authorship was very important. So hand-drawn was the way to go for me.
I think for me it's because I'm pretty incapable at other stuff, like in terms of like 3D and things like that. I'm a bit like allergic to that kind of stuff.
Oh,
No, not like
you like Pixar?
oh I do, but then I can't do it like physically like I can't like my computer will break down and then I will break down along with the computer. Like it's bad. It's not good for me. So I guess hand drawn was like the best in that sense out of necessity, but also like it's the most like what Winnie said, you feel like connected to the thing that you're drawing in like a special way, especially if it's like pen and like real paper. There's the tactility, there's like the sensation of drawing, which I think is very nice. It's like very childlike almost, which I still like in my like practice and process. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of like the image that you have in the background as well with the hands close up.
Oh, yeah,
Tactile.
yeah,
Mm. Mm. And Grace, what about you?
I think the reason I like using hand-drawn mediums is because it leaves room for, in a sense, accidents. Because I feel like when doing art, it's not about being in control. I mean, we always have a vision of what we want, but I feel that our final result is definitely not gonna be what we envisioned in the first place. And in a sense, that's quite a beautiful thing. And I think working with like physical mediums, sometimes you create textures and forms that you might not have intended. But I'm sure everyone here knows like what it means to trust the process because I'm sure they've done it like 1,000 times across all their different projects. And to me, that's like what makes the art exciting because if you are in complete control, then there's no room for like discovering the artwork and also like yourself in the process of it. Yeah, and I think that's why Ben and I chose to use like physical mediums for the film because it also makes the process, like the process itself, sort of like a work of art, not just like the final product.
Oh,
Yeah.
Was it the same for you, Winnie, when you were using post-it notes?
Yeah, I think it was really very like tactile. And yeah, because when I did it, I didn't really plan where to paste the post-it notes also. So it was really a lot of trial and error. And yeah, it was really fun, I would say.
Oh. But yeah, and so much of your film is digital. Why did you choose to do digital?
Um, I don't think it was a very like conscious like like oh I could have done it on paper instead. But I think I I wanted things to be very vibrant. I think one thing about my film is that I really wanted the colors to 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 kind of like blind people, and so I think doing it digitally gave me a lot more room to experiment without like fear of like messing up like the drawing beneath or whatever. So I think that's where the digitalness definitely came in helpful.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Han Ji-won. I don't know if you've seen her films. Um,
Gonna
she's a
look her up.
Korean director who is working off of Makoto Shinkai, or well, her
Ah,
films look like it's like Makoto Shinkai, but it's lesbian, so it's better. I think
real.
she just came out with something on Netflix earlier in the year, and then um, she's famous for an earlier feature called The Summer as well. But anyway.
Ah,
Yeah. And there's something that looked very similar. And I was like, oh.
thank you.
And I guess it's a question for everyone too. I think what Grace brings up in terms of like discovering something new in the process is really interesting to think about, right? And so when you were making your films, what surprised you? What's something that came up during the process that you were like, oh, it wasn't supposed to be here, but then it happened? Or maybe you decided to cut something because it didn't work out. I don't know.
I feel like I need more time to think about this.
You can think. Didn't see this one coming. Ben?
Um, I
Oh,
think I can go first.
mm.
So one of the surprising thing that happened was the post-it notes weren't supposed to be there. Like when I first um thought about the animation, it was entirely supposed to be in watercolor, like the front half of it, which is all blue. Yeah, and only as I started to make the animation, um, and started to draw everything out and use watercolor, I started to realize that there's a lot of like visual detail that I couldn't remember about my grandmother's house.
Oh,
And so watercolor wasn't really working for me. And I really had like a moment of like breakdown. I was like, oh my God, I can't finish this. I can't finish this all in watercolor too because it took too long. I did it all on my own. So then I was like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. So I had to like lie down on my bed and I was really just like, I got a nap. And then I don't know what happened, but I suddenly tried to remember. I really tried very hard to remember what was the most important thing in my grandmother's house. And it was the yellow walls of a house. And I always thought it was very weird that the house was painted in yellow. Yeah. And so that was the only thing I remembered of that house was the yellow walls because I would always stare at them in the afternoon and stuff like that. And yeah, so the post-it notes just made sense to me immediately because of the color. And I was like, okay, everything that is set in the house is going to be on post-it notes because of the yellow walls. And I was like, okay, done. Yeah,
wow, amazing. And this is the
that was
bed that
fun.
shows up in your film, right?
Sorry?
And the bed that you were lying on is the bed that shows up in your film, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Honorary member.
I think you can go next. I think for sorry, you are giving more time. I think for Mountain, it was like I think Grace will agree also. Like the whole process is quite experimental from the start. We didn't really start with like a storyboard or like a script. we just like drew stuff and like experimented with like different mediums like watercolor, oil pastel, and then like blending traditional and digital and drawing a lot of like mountain inspired things. Like for me, I drew a lot from like my trip to like New Zealand. I think Grace also drew a lot from that, like personally. So it was very like I think the whole film was a process. Like we didn't really know where we were going. Then we were just piecing together things that we liked, narratives, ideas, memories, loose visual narrative strands, and then trying to like tie them together to the mountain. So it was kind of yeah, it's experimental in that way, very like free. I think that was kind of like beautiful. Also, I might have lost the plot of the question in the first place, but yeah, the whole thing was a process.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah. And Yuan?
I think something I don't know if it's fun or interesting, but I think it's pretty funny. That this film was originally a solo film, so I was originally gonna work on it on my own, but like about like 4 weeks, and I suddenly took in like two other friends to work on it at the same time, and and by pure coincidence or by sheer like just convenience of like character design, all three of the main characters kind of look like the team members who
Oh,
who worked on the film. Like kind of on accident, kind of just character design process, and then oh, it just so happened all three of us kind of fulfill one of the character design like elements. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Grace, you have anything to add? Yeah.
I think what okay, I wouldn't say that it was a shock, but because we had a lot of different cutaways and different sort of flashbacks which used different mediums in our film, one thing that I think I was stressed about was like in a sense at the start I felt like we tried to create every scene with enough detail, and in a sense it was thinking like okay, like we feel like it should be up to a certain standard, because when we are doing like projects, we in the back of our mind there's always like what standard should it be, like is it professional enough, is it industry standard. So I think the tough part was like really just looking at the film and being able to sort of remove all these external voices and really just look at it and think like what is true to yourself. And in the end, I think in like what speaks to you yourself emotionally might not always speak to like the industry standard, for example. But that's how we approached most of the film, which is emotive storytelling. And that meant that a lot of the final scenes sometimes maybe had like very little detail, like the MRT scene where like the guy was like holding on to the MRT handrail. It was supposed to be like filled with a lot more detail and color, but then at the end of the day we were like, actually you don't have to do that to like get the emotion across. And yeah, so I think sometimes it's also about letting go of certain expectations and letting go of certain like details and just letting your like your voice and your emotions come through. Yeah.
Well, well, that was very eloquent. And I think that's an interesting lead into my next question. So I mean, like when Winnie was describing how like they didn't want to use they didn't plan to use the post-it notes to begin with, that there's already this crisis of what you actually want on the inside, right? And then you have to decide how you want to make your film. But then the interesting thing for me is like what Yuan was saying earlier is that most of you worked in teams. So how do you figure out and balance finding your own voice while you're working within a team? Um, and maybe it'll be contentious because both people from Mountain Mountain are here, but you guys can.
I think uh, I personally didn't have that issue because, like I said, it was originally a solo film. So a lot of the pre-production stuff was already completed by the time like my other two group mates, Riz and Le Yang, joined me. But I think uh, it might be pretentious of me to speak for them, but like I think in their own ways they did manage to find their own voice in the work that they've put into the film, like in the ways that they animate, like the characters, like acting, and even like the way the waves are being animated, and the fish. It's all like just done with their own like research and their own like references, and I think it shows. Yeah.
For me, I did all the visuals myself, and the only person that I had on the team with me was my sound designer. And so, visually, I mean, I just did everything. But when it came to doing the sound, it was a lot of kind of having to sit together and trying to reach the same like kind of understanding because before we came together, it was mainly I did the drawings and I would send it over, and then they would create some sort of music for it and then they send it back to me. And then I realized that, oh, it wasn't working. Like, this
Oh,
isn't sounding like what I wanted. Yeah. So then we were like, okay, let's sit down together. And then they would kind of make stuff in front of me. And then I'd be like, okay, this sounds good. Let's move on. And then so there's a lot of trying things. And I became more involved with the sound, like kind of sampling, um, yeah, experimenting with a lot of sounds. And then I even had to kind of like hum a bit, sing a bit at the end, which was quite fun. So overall, it's just more of like knowing how to communicate your ideas um clearly. I think that was what I learned a lot. And then the collaboration went quite smoothly. Yeah.
I think for Mountain, I think me and Grace, we worked quite a lot together in university. Like we did a previous film together also. So I think that kind of context and the past kind of helped to make things a bit smoother. But I think the greatest lesson I learned from Mountain is because like our film has a lot of different styles. Sometimes Grace would just take over like entire like scenes and I would do entire scenes based on like the style that we felt fit that particular scene or that particular memoir memory. And then just letting, like as the young kids say, just letting Grace cook or like letting them cook, like like let them like just trust your teammates to experiment and to understand the vision. I think also because we really knew that we had the same, or at least very broadly the same idea of like what the film needed to be or was about, and then just trusting the intuition of your teammates, I think, is very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar to what Ben said. So for like what he mentioned just now, our process is in a sense not very like we started off with the actual product much later than other teams, I would say, because we took a lot of time between the both of us and also with the help of our supervisor, like Prof. Andy, to really communicate and figure out the style and like talk to each other, even the script writing, like everything we did, I think we wanted it to like feel genuine to like the both of us and not just one of us, so that the final product can be something that we both feel for. But then like what Ben also said, when it came to the final working of it, we did take different scenes at certain points, and but because we already had that deep level of communication and understanding of each other, even if we worked on separate scenes and we gave each other feedback along the way, there wasn't a problem with like like it's suddenly a whole different direction. And in a sense, it allowed each of us to also kind of bring to life our own visions, but within the theme and within the story that we already talked about. Yeah, and I think that made it more meaningful for the both of us also. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you go about building that sort of trust, or building that sort of ability to communicate your ideas? I think it's interesting that Winnie was like, yeah, it was a little difficult actually. And I think it is interesting that Ben and Grace are both saying like, yeah, we had a history, so it was fine. But how do you get to that place? Is it by hanging out outside of work, or is it just a lot of study time together in a coffee shop and you're like, ah, now I need to hash out this idea with you, or
I think it's a lot of back and forth, like what Winnie was talking about also, like because I think the creative process is like collaborative, and sometimes it can be kind of destructive also when I think ego gets involved, at
Mm,
least for me personally, right? Then yeah, it's just like as a creator, you kind of want your fingerprint or your stamp on things, right? And then learning how to let go of like certain things, and then letting people like cook, it's like I think it takes time. That's all it takes. Yeah, there's I don't think there's any one way to do it. Yeah, just a lot of time spent talking and watching things and making things together, and then like and like thoughts and being very sincere with yourself and knowing that the space that you create is a safe one at the end of the day. Yeah, even though it might be there are many opinions, it's not like they're personal. I think that's important. Yeah.
I think for me it's like patience and kind of like learning to be open. And because this was like my personal film and I brought my friend along to help out, so I was very grateful for them.
mm,
And I felt like because they were also working on their own work at that point of time. So
mm,
it's kind of having to juggle two works. And I think it was more having to sit down together, really just brainstorm and yeah, being open to whatever they would kind of throw out and then just letting it happen first. And like as you make, you realize that oh this works, this doesn't work. And I think it's more like not being stuck on your own ideas
mm,
and kind of like seeing what the other person has to say. And then sometimes it might kind of align with what you already had in mind and then it works out. And so yeah, it was just kind of like building off each other. That was very important for at least the both of our like styles. Yeah.
mm,
I think it's definitely like an a starting point of mutual respect and understanding that you may not have everything figured out.
mm.
Definitely helps.
Yeah, how much say did the other teammates have in the film, even though you already did all the pre-production first?
uh, I would say that I they probably didn't feel like they had a lot of say because a lot of it was already like set. Like, because I'm very thorough when I plan stuff, so I was actually like completely like uh set at that point. Like it was just production. But that there are multiple times where like I would face like a choice that like I wasn't too sure about, or like we would get feedback from like our professor, and I'd be like, oh shit, I really don't know about this. I don't know if I should listen. And then I would ask them, and then they would tell me, okay, well, what if you listen? Let's try and listen. And then I'll be like, okay, and I'll just follow their suggestion with like shots, like changing the camera angle or making things more simplified and stuff. So uh, I do listen to them as well.
That's good. Yeah. And Grace too, anything to add?
I think what Yuan said about respect, cause I feel that like I think when I worked with Ben, like bouncing off ideas each other, it really like open new perspectives, and in a sense I feel that it's always better than doing things alone. But we definitely need the respect that like you need to know that you need to respect the other person like from the beginning
Mm,
and be prepared to like what Ben also said, like let go of certain ideas that you might have. Yeah.
mm. And I thought what was really striking this year is that so many of you guys have some sort of voice acting involved. I guess Winnie just said that she was singing to the end. But I thought it was really interesting to have not one but multiple voice actors. So what was it like working with that?
Oh, it was kind of crazy because I think it was my it was my first time. It was my first time. I feel like every time I do a short film, I try and do something new. So for this film, it was making it local and also getting voice actors. So that was very fun and very stressful because um, there's no one to tell you, oh, this is how you do things. Like this is how you should be um, guiding your voice actors. This is how you should be giving them the script. This is how you should be I don't know, coaxing them to perform for you in a way that is helpful. There wasn't really like a okay, maybe I should have looked up a tutorial or something, but like there wasn't really like a pamphlet that taught you exactly what to do. So it was a lot of I was actually very lucky to get voice actors that were honestly pretty well established. One of them's the voice actor for one of the characters in Valorant, is like a video game, and like another, and the other voice actor is also has a very impressive resume. Uh, but all that to say, I am very thankful because I had to like ask them, hey, this is my first time, so help would be appreciated, and they were very patient with me, and they did such a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben and Grace, any comments on voice acting? Yeah.
I think Mountain is a bit strange in that Grace kind of did most of the voice acting for
Oh,
the, for one of the main characters. Because I
I was like,
think
she
like I
sounds so
think
familiar.
yeah, that's the voice. But then I think like for the film, because it's so handmade and it's so kind of like slice of life, like every day and so personal, we could kind of rely on not professional voice actors, but like very everyday kind of like voices that you hear. A lot of it was like family and like close friends. So in terms of working with them, it was like very easy because I mean these are like our mates, right? Like see them around all the time. It's like we just want them to be themselves, and we kind of drew reference when we were like writing the characters from a lot of them in the first place. So it's almost like serendipitous, or like it's very humbling to like everything to come together full circle. Uh, yeah, I think Grace can probably speak more on that than me. But yeah, that's our direction with voice acting at least. Yeah, keep it in house.
I think the voice acting was my favorite part of the whole process. In a sense, like during the stressful period, it was the part that made us laugh the most. And yeah, because like what Ben said, because our film was very personal to begin with, I think we didn't feel the need to like we considered getting professional actors, but then we already had a sense of like what the voices sounded in our heads, and a lot of it was like what Ben said, what we could find either within ourselves or like around us. So we just guided the people around us and kind of told them what it was like. We had a few trials, so we brought a few friends who like they tried acting and then maybe it sounded a little bit weird, and in the end we were like, so sorry, I don't think we can use this. But in the end, I would say that a lot of what we experienced in our lives was put into the film. So we didn't feel like the voice acting had to be super professional. Yeah. Yeah.
And what was everyone else's favorite part of working on their film? Any good memories from set, I guess?
Probably when we went to East Coast Park to try and take reference videos, but um, the reference video was so bad we didn't end up using it because none of us knew how to run naturally on sand. It looked really bad. Like it was like toddling like toddlers like colliding into each other. Yeah, so we didn't actually use the footage that we took, but we definitely soaked in the atmosphere.
Wait, what was the footage supposed to be? You were
It
supposed to
is
run.
it was like one of the last shots when like the two characters are like running towards each other and then they hug. So like me and like Riz Riz tried to recreate that shot, but we 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 just didn't know how to run and it was just so awkward and we just it was so bad. Yeah, so we never used it. We still have it. We it's an inside joke, but yeah, it's yeah.
We just got the reference from somewhere online instead.
Yeah.
That's great. The vibe, yeah.
For me, I think it was making the sound with my friend, and it was really just like late nights in our art studio, and I'll have them like stay up, and we'd stay up till like 5 a.m. together. And then when you hit like 3 a.m., you kind of go a bit crazy. And so you start going crazy and then like just experimenting with a lot of weird sounds. And so it was just going down the soundboard, like weird sounds just filling the studio. Or like walking to get supper and then coming back and then being like, okay, we have to do work, but then we don't do work. Or like I think there was one part of the film where there's this like I don't know, there's this melody that we got, but we actually got it from like a police siren that we heard in the studio. And we were like, oh, that's the right note, that's the right, put it down. And we had to recreate that police siren. And then they mixed it up and stuff. It was really funny, but it was really fun. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And then Ben, do you have any favorite memories?
Uh, I think two things come up to me. I think first is just drawing a lot. Sounds kind of lame, but I don't know. We did a lot of like watercolor and a lot of traditional drawings. So like, it involved like the light box and things like that. And that was like really nice. Like it's almost like meditative. Like I'll wake up and then I'll just come to my little space and then I'll just like see what I have to do for the day, then plan it out. And I just draw the whole day. It was there's like I don't know how to explain, but it was so peaceful. Um like no outside distractions, no like have to worry about this or that. Just the act of drawing itself, I think was very rewarding. And also the second thing comes to mind was like me and Grace went to Mount Faber uh to get some vibes, to capture some like references and to get an idea of like, oh, what's it like sitting on a cable car? What are the sounds, the sensations? And how can that translate into like the film, whether emotively or as a narrative device in some way? I think that was also really fun. Like, I mean, just going out in general is fun, but like seeing kind of like your film in sort of real life and then drawing inspiration from a very tangible source, I think it's a very beautiful thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I was about to say that everyone didn't say anything about drawing, but I guess Ben did say that he liked drawing as a part of his process. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, this is really interesting to me, I think, because all of your projects are longer as well, compared to some other student animated shorts that I've seen before. And so I imagine it was really labor intensive. I guess it's partially because we have some thesis films. So how do you stay focused and how do you like physically maintain your pose when you're like making something really long or when you're working on a big project? Do you go on walks every day or oh, never mind, you won't hesitate. Yeah, let's jump in. All right.
um I probably should have gone on more walks. um I think for me, what helped is that in our school we have they give us like a cubicle space, so it really like isolates you from like everything else. And like I think just having that dedicated space just made me feel like I had to finish it or I couldn't leave. um yeah, and so to me, for me, what works is when I like kind of I think scare myself sounds bad, but psych myself into finishing things is to kind of like give myself like an ultimatum of sorts. I mean, aside from the fact that I do actually enjoy like working on the project and stuff, but it's like I just constantly told myself I have a year and like I have to finish it. Yeah. Um yeah.
Wow. There's no motivation like a prison cell.
It's true, it works.
For me, I think it was really the deadline because I got the deadline wrong. So it was actually a month earlier than I thought I had. And I started late also. So I was like, oh, I don't have much time. So I had to really sit at my desk and like every day I wake up 8 a.m. and I draw all the way to night. And I think, yeah, I just have to keep focused, man. But I think what I was really grateful for was my suite mates because we all lived in one suite together. And so if they hear me scream, they'll be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And they'll come over. Or like when it was time for lunch or dinner, they'll knock on my door and they're like, "It's time to eat. Stop drawing." So like I really appreciated all the kind of yeah, the help that I got also because I think it was very isolating in a sense. Yeah, when you have to work on it, and it's just drawing all by yourself. It's quite lonely. But when you have friends around to like talk to, and it really helps to like clear your head also. Because there'll be some scenes where I'm just like, oh, it's not working. And then I'll knock on their doors and I'll be like, it's not working. Can I talk to you about it? And they'll always be very open to talk to me about it, even though they're not art majors or anything. Like yeah, one of them is like an urban study major, and she's like, sure, let's talk about it. Yeah. So I was very grateful for all of that. And while I'm drawing, I just like to watch like movies or films that really inspire me. So I'm like, okay, I gotta be like that one day. So I'm gonna keep going. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's very anime protagonist energy. Wow. Grace and Ben? Oh, oh,
Oh, sorry.
at the same time. Wow, how exciting.
uh, I think for me, it was not so much of like getting it done. I'm kind of dumb. So like I have blind faith to some degree that things will get done if you just do the thing. So I think to what like Yuon and Winnie were talking about, there's like I think discipline is a big part of it, like having a schedule and then like it just sounds so lame, but it's true. It's just doing the work every day and then keeping to it. But then also for me knowing when to set boundaries. I think Grace kind of helps me with this because I'm a bit more kind of like work obsessed at times and in a bad way. So like knowing boundaries is an important thing. And I think going for walks was like big for me. Like or playing basketball. So sometimes I'll like go to the stadium and I'll play basketball and then I'll like take a sketchbook with me and then I'll just end up drawing people there. I think that was kind of therapeutic in a sense to like make sure that like drawing has its place. You know, it's not this thing that's scary or like, oh, I gotta finish. It's supposed to be fun. And I think the most important thing for me is reminding myself of like why do I do this? It's not really. I mean, if I've completed the film, that's good. I want the film to be completed to like as best as I can. But if I'm enjoying the process, I think that's more important, at least to me, lah. Yeah.
Um, I think with everything that we find meaningful to do. There's always parts of it that we don't necessarily like, or that times that we have to push through it. But then again, there's always the part that you genuinely find fun and that like keeps your spirit going. And I think those are the parts that we focus on. And like making the process fun for yourself. So maybe for our film, we had the luxury of working with different items, different paintings, different like pencil. Like one moment we are drawing on A4 paper, the next moment we are like painting. So in a sense, we had the luxury of like switching it up when we were bored of one medium. And I think like I don't remember it being very torturous. I think it really helped having like a team member to do it with also, because the person keeps you going. And also I think I just remember like giving ourselves space to look at the stuff on the table. So I just remember like there was one part that I was working on, then it was just like scraps of A4 paper across my entire table and like one pencil, and then like it was a huge mess. But then like it's just looking at it and being like, oh, like this is so funny, or like this is so fun, which I'm sure everyone had like moments of, like when Winnie said she was crazy at like 3 a.m. Like sure, but I think that's part of the film also. Like you have to have those crazy moments to like keep yourself going. And I think that's also why everyone here probably chose to do art, because at the end of the day we refuse to like bow down to society and just be like bored with our lives. Like we want to do something that we want to do. Yeah. So so yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I guess this leads me to my next question, which is like, I mean, all of you have graduated, most of you are working in animation, but I'm sure it's very different from your experiences as a student, right? So I guess how would you reflect upon that, and what do you think is like the state of Singaporean animation today?
Uh, just just to put it out there, but I'm currently unemployed. So I am currently looking for work. But I think one thing that, like, I don't know, I think back to about like my university days is uh definitely miss my friends. I think like everyone can agree, can relate to that. But so much of my life was experienced with them, which was also what uh kind of inspired me to do this film to begin with. And uh it's something I miss. And but at the same time, when I see them do uh go on to like bigger and better things right now, I also get a sense of like, hey, the industry in Singapore uh may not be the best, but it's not horrible either. It's there is like places for everyone to find and like thrive in. And I think seeing my friends achieve these kinds of like lovely like milestones just makes me have like this sense of pride and like hope for like the rest of us as well.
For me, I didn't go to an art school, so it's a liberal art school. So I think the education that I got was really very formative because I really got a lot of different perspectives from the different people that I met. And I think that's what I really miss a lot, that kind of different perspective, and the critique that I would get from my work also was very, very helpful. I think it's very hard when you're doing work alone. I feel like you can be stuck in your own bubble, and it's very hard to judge whether a thing is good or not because, I mean, you're biased, right? But yeah, so having that external kind of voice helps. Um, and yeah, and I think I got to experiment a lot in school also, just like combining the different things that I like, different things I was interested in, the topics. And yeah, so for animation industry, I don't really know. Also currently looking for jobs. Um, but also, yeah, I think for me, I'm really excited. I want to see more experimental films. I want to see more mixed medium films. And yeah, I think I'm really excited for our future, even though it might seem bleak with AI and everything. But I believe with our heart, we can do it. Yes.
I think I don't know. I feel like Singapore animation is kind of in a good place. I mean, I'm very young. I'm 26, so I don't really know how the industry is doing because I don't have enough like experience. Uh, I mean, I only have my time in finding pictures, and that was like a blast because the people there are wacky and fun and strange. So every day in the office, I don't know if Gerald will scold me, but it's like it doesn't really feel like work. I mean, I'm doing the work as you can see, but like, um, it's very fun lah. Like at least in that studio, and like what Yuon says, I think from most of my batchmates who are also like super talented and like crazy and passionate people, they've kind of found like a space in animation or like animation adjacent fields, which is nice, you know, like there's enough space for at least all of us at this stage of life, right? In the future, I can't really attest to that. But in terms of like, I think Singapore student animation, I think it's in a very like nice place where, like, I think in the past I didn't see as much Singaporean inspired films that felt very personal to me. It was all more fantastical, more imagined, which is nice. Like um like it's like Knights and Dragons or like all these like fantastical things which don't really deal with like the Singaporeanness of being Singaporean or like a very personal experience. But nowadays I see a lot of student films which are a lot more like strange and wacky and personal, and you can tell it's kind of like Singaporean in some way. So I think that's really cool. I don't know if it's just me or my lens, my self coloring this perspective, but that's what I see, which I think is like it's like really nice. I guess it's the kind of films I want to see, just selfishly lah, for myself. Yeah.
I would say that I think for Singaporeans, being with like our batchmates, I think a lot of us have a lot of vision, and I'm always like inspired by even just being in class with them. Like I know that they have such strong voices and they want to share it, and maybe there's a certain idea that the Singapore art or animation or even film industry is not established enough. I cannot fully disagree with that because I think there is still a lot of room to grow. And sure, we can look at maybe America, we can look at Japan, we can look at other countries. But I think the thing that we need to remember is that we are not those countries. So yes, we can sort of um be inspired, but we don't have to be artists like them, and our museums don't have to look like their museums, and our films shouldn't have to look like their films. And I think if like Singaporeans just like if they want to tell stories or if they want to put up a piece of art, like if they just ask themselves what they want to do and be proud and not be ashamed to do that without like comparing themselves to like what it looks like elsewhere, I think we really have a lot of potential. And I just hope that even like for the next like the future art students or even people who maybe are like 40 years old and they have never done art and suddenly they're like I want to paint, like I just hope that everyone knows that art can come from anywhere as long as it's genuine. And I think if it's genuine, it will definitely show. It will definitely impact one person or like maybe 1,000 people. But even if it's just one person, like that's enough. Or even if it's just yourself, like that's enough. So yes, I do think that we have a lot of room to grow. But at the same time, I think that we need to remember that, okay, not need to, but I would say that we should remember that art exists in like more than what we think it exists in. Like yeah, like maybe like one day I wake up or like one day my friend wakes up and she gives me like a birthday card that she hand draws. Like to me that's also art, and in a sense it's of equal value of like I would say a painting in a museum. Like art is everywhere, and I think art is like a part of life. So we shouldn't like box it out and be like, oh, the industry has to be a certain way. I think we can appreciate it in like everything we see. Yeah.
Oh. Wait, that's such a beautiful way to end this conversation. We're like exactly at time. So I think with that, I'll stop the recording, but also thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Cartoons Underground will happen on November 1st. So for everyone who's in Singapore, go check them out.